In a quiet, remote village nestled among misty hills stood a castle shrouded in mystery and age-old rumors. The grand structure, made of weathered stone and looming towers, cast an eerie shadow over the surrounding land. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the old castle, a place that had stood for centuries, housing countless dark secrets. Among these secrets, none were more chilling than the mysterious disappearances of over 600 young girls. It all began in the early 1800s when Lady Eleanor Blackwood, a woman of exceptional beauty, intellect, and wealth, came into power. She inherited the castle from her family, who had built it generations ago. The Blackwoods were known for their vast wealth and status, and Lady Eleanor was no exception. Her family was influential in the region, and she quickly became a respected figure in the local community. However, behind the charm and poise, Lady Eleanor was a woman with a darkness that no one truly understood. The mystery started shortly after she took control of the estate. The first girl to disappear was Mary Mallory, a sweet and innocent 12-year-old who had been known to wander the castle's gardens. At first, her disappearance seemed like a fluke, a runaway perhaps. But as weeks passed, it became clear that something more sinister was afoot. One by one, girls from the nearby villages vanished without a trace. Their names were lost to time, but the fear they left behind remained. The villagers whispered that Lady Eleanor had been involved in these disappearances, though no one dared to speak openly about it. Rumors of strange rituals and dark practices began to swirl, but no one could confirm them. After all, Lady Eleanor had an impeccable reputation, and no one dared question her authority. However, the more the girls vanished, the more sinister the whispers became. Lady Eleanor's demeanor began to change. Once a graceful and charitable woman, she now became colder and more distant, spending more and more time within the depths of her vast castle. Her once bustling court became silent, as she locked herself away in her chambers for hours, sometimes days. Those few who had access to the castle began to notice strange symbols carved into the walls, arcane books scattered across the floors, and items that didn't seem to belong in a typical noble's home. The disappearances continued, and it became evident that these girls, ranging from ages 10 to 18, were never to be seen again. Some of the girls were said to have been from poor families who worked on Lady Eleanor's estate, while others came from wealthy families who trusted her. As the bodies of missing girls were never found, rumors began to spread that the castle was a place of evil, that Lady Eleanor was conducting something far worse than mere kidnappings. The first few years of her reign were filled with lavish banquets, but soon, those who dared to speak of the missing girls were silenced. The local authorities made half-hearted attempts to investigate, but Lady Eleanor's influence was so powerful that they were quickly swayed. Some even claimed to have witnessed the families of the missing girls being bought off with gold, silencing them in exchange for their complicity. But not everyone could be so easily intimidated. A few brave souls from the nearby villages began to piece together the terrible truth. They spoke of seeing strange lights flickering in the windows of the castle late at night, and of hearing eerie chants carried by the wind. It was said that Lady Eleanor had a fascination with immortality, and that she would go to any length to achieve it. The villagers began to speculate that the missing girls were part of a dark ritual, a desperate attempt by Lady Eleanor to prolong her life. As the years passed, the disappearances became too numerous to ignore, but Lady Eleanor's hold over the village remained unchallenged. Those who sought to expose her were either bought off or mysteriously disappeared themselves. Fear gripped the village, and the castle became a place that people only dared to approach in their nightmares. No one dared to venture too close, not even the bravest of the young men who once gathered to gossip about the strange occurrences. Lady Eleanor's lust for power and control grew, and she began to openly flaunt her arrogance. She became even more reclusive, only seen in public on rare occasions. Those who did see her claimed that she appeared to be aging in reverse, her once wrinkled face becoming more youthful by the day. She became obsessed with the idea of remaining young and beautiful forever, but the price of such vanity was far higher than anyone could have imagined. With each passing year, the number of missing girls continued to grow, but no one could ever uncover the truth. The village continued to live in fear, unable to break free from Lady Eleanor's reign of terror. Some villagers began to suggest that the castle itself was cursed, that it had been built on land tainted by dark forces long ago. The truth, however, was far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't until centuries later, when historians and researchers began to investigate the old Blackwood estate, that the true extent of Lady Eleanor's twisted empire began to unfold. But by then, the castle had been abandoned, and the villagers were too terrified to speak of what they had witnessed. The legacy of Lady Eleanor Blackwood's reign remained buried beneath the stones of the castle, a dark chapter in the history of a village that was never the same after 600 girls vanished into the night. The mystery of the missing girls remained unsolved for centuries. The village continued to live in silence, haunted by the knowledge of what had taken place behind the imposing walls of Lady Eleanor Blackwood's castle. The once glorious estate had become a symbol of fear, and its dark history was buried deep within its ancient walls. But the secrets it held would not stay hidden forever. In the late 1900s, a group of researchers and historians, determined to uncover the truth about Lady Eleanor's reign, began a detailed investigation of the Blackwood estate. The stories passed down through generations had intrigued them, and they were determined to find answers to the chilling questions that had lingered for so long. What they uncovered would shock the world and reveal the horrifying truth about the mysterious disappearances. After months of painstaking research and sifting through old records, the team stumbled upon something that had been long forgotten, a collection of journals and ancient documents hidden in a secret chamber beneath the castle. These journals belonged to Lady Eleanor herself, and within their pages lay the terrifying details of her dark obsession with immortality. The journals revealed that Lady Eleanor had turned to dark and forbidden practices in her desperate attempt to cheat death. She had discovered ancient rituals, passed down through generations of occultists, that promised to grant eternal life to those who were willing to sacrifice others. Lady Eleanor's obsession with beauty and youth had driven her to madness, and she believed that by performing these rituals she could live forever. The girls who had disappeared were not merely victims of kidnapping or accident, they were sacrifices. Lady Eleanor, in her twisted desire for eternal life, had been using their youth and vitality to fuel her rituals. The journals described in horrifying detail how she would choose a girl from the village, often selecting those with the purest of souls, and then bring them to the secret chamber deep beneath the castle. There, the rituals would take place, rituals that involved dark magic, forbidden blood rites, and the draining of the girl's life force. Lady Eleanor had created a secret society within her court, a group of loyal followers who helped her carry out these gruesome ceremonies. They were promised power and wealth in exchange for their complicity, and they too became part of the twisted empire that Lady Eleanor had built within the castle. The walls of the chamber, which had been sealed for centuries, were lined with symbols and markings, evidence of the countless sacrifices that had taken place. But the truth didn't stop there. As the researchers continued to dig deeper, they uncovered something even more shocking. Lady Eleanor had been using alchemical potions and ancient spells to preserve her youth, and the results were terrifying. She had successfully prolonged her life for over 2 centuries, using the stolen vitality of innocent girls to fuel her twisted quest for immortality. As the years went on, her appearance remained youthful and radiant, but her sanity began to unravel. The village, once peaceful and thriving, had become a place where death and darkness reigned. Those who had survived the terror, those whose daughters had been taken, had been too frightened to speak out. Fear of retribution from Lady Eleanor's loyalists kept them silent, and so the truth remained hidden for generations. Even the authorities, who had suspected something was wrong, were either bought off or too afraid to investigate further. When the historians unearthed the final pieces of the puzzle, they realized the full extent of Lady Eleanor's evil. The secret chamber beneath the castle was not only a place of ritual, but also a tomb filled with the bones of the missing girls. As they uncovered the remains, the true scale of the horror became clear. Hundreds of young lives had been lost, their souls trapped in the dark rituals of the woman who had once ruled over them. The castle, once a symbol of power and beauty, had become a tomb of secrets, a place where the blood of the innocent had been spilled in pursuit of eternal life. The spirits of the girls who had vanished began to haunt the castle, their restless souls wandering the halls in search of justice. The curse of Lady Eleanor Blackwood's reign had left an indelible mark on the land, and the village would never be the same again. But even as the truth came to light, the castle stood in silent defiance. Its towering walls remained as imposing as ever, the shadows that lingered within its chambers still filled with the whispers of the past. Those who had sought to uncover the truth were forever marked by what they had discovered, and the legend of Lady Eleanor's reign continued to haunt the village, a reminder of the darkness that once ruled there. To this day, the Blackwood estate remains abandoned, its gates locked tight. Some say that the ghosts of the missing girls still haunt the castle, their voices carried on the wind. The truth of what happened within its walls has been exposed, but the scars of the past are not easily erased. The once beautiful castle, now a place of ruin, stands as a chilling testament to the power of obsession, and the price that must be paid when one dares to defy the natural order.